Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Engineering Success Podcast, episode 25. I am shooting this episode from the good old city of New Orleans, Louisiana. I shared this in the last episode, that would be the last episode filmed in San Antonio, and it was for now. My wife and I have moved to New Orleans. It was a move that did not come without chaos. Namely being our movers taking forever to load our U-Haul, then us leaving 6 hours later because they didn't fully load the U-Haul, then our U-Haul tire popping, and us getting stranded on the road for 3 hours waiting for U-Haul roadside assistance. It was a crazy move, but we're here. We have a bunch of boxes, thank God for green screens, or else otherwise you'd see the absolute chaos in my office. But things are good. It's the Engineering Success Podcast, and we're having a good time. Before we get started with the podcast, I'm going to give a quick shout out to John Ott. John Ott is our top tier supporter. Join John Ott supporting the podcast, $10 a month, and you get a shout out at the beginning of every single episode of the podcast. There's a link in the description box for you to go to Patreon or support me directly through Anchor, whatever way you prefer. But thank you, John Ott. And reminder, write in your questions to engring.success@gmail.com if you want to have your questions responded to on the podcast. And remember to give a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. If you give me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and it's family friendly, I will read it on the podcast. Also, commenting on YouTube really helps me out, so make sure you do that, like, subscribe, do all that stuff. All right, well, that's the clerical nonsense. Now, I mentioned earlier that I am in Louisiana, and in the spirit of all things Louisiana, I figured why not bring back my favorite Louisianan in the history of the podcast, Mr. Luke Callahan. So, Luke, I'm about to bring you onto the screen. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good. Thank you for having me, Daniel. I hope the move isn't too crazy, and you actually get to enjoy the Big Easy and Louisiana and everything it has to offer. But thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I had to have you on. You know, you're the first person I thought of whenever I was coming over here. I was like, I gotta tell Luke I'm here. so now you're not in Louisiana yourself currently,
right? No, I moved up to Charlotte, North Carolina, right out of school. But I spent the first 22 years of my life in Louisiana. So
okay, so yes, you're definitely an expert. Yeah. So how far did you grow up away from New Orleans?
I grew up on the North Shore, so I grew up I grew up around Hammond, the Hammond area, which is the intersection between 55 and 12.
Okay, sweet. So now you're in Charlotte. Now, last time we talked to you, you were working for one company.
Yeah.
Now that we're talking to you again, I hear that you have changed employers. Yeah. So how's that going?
It's going well. I think it's a good move for my career, and I definitely think there's going to be hopefully this one's going to last a little bit longer than my previous ones have, pending no crazy monkey wrenches get thrown my way. But it's been good so far. I'm fortunate to work with like a really good team that provides a lot of resources and is really there to help me grow my career and really develop into the engineer that I think I want to be. So yeah, things are going great.
Yeah. So yeah, you've had a lot of things happen in your career so far really quickly. And you know, one of the biggest focuses of this podcast, obviously we're going to get into the rest of the podcast and to go through our LinkedIn Lunatics and respond to questions, but I know I want to give you an opportunity to really kind of share some things that you've been working on as a young professional, and any bits of advice that you have for anybody as a guest on the podcast. What have you been working on, and what other things can other people take into their young careers?
So I guess I could give you a little bit of a backstory of how I ended up switching. So I know there's a lot of kind of negative kind of correlation between like kind of job hopping as a young professional. You know, like people really want you to be loyal and they want you to grow, which I strongly encourage. You know, like whenever you sign on to a company and you start your career with that company, you're not really valuable until about 3 to 5 years in, right? That's the point where you should have a really firm understanding of how to do whatever you've been doing for the past 3 to 5 years. So I definitely encourage it. My situation, of course, was a little unique because the first one, it got hit with the pandemic. And then, this second job that I started, there was an opportunity to stay with them, but the project that they were working on here in the Carolinas, so in the event that anybody knows, I was working on the Panthers project. So the Carolina Panthers were building a sports facility, like a training and headquarters, just south of Charlotte, about 15, 20 miles or so. And they kind of pulled the plug on it. They're like, yeah, we don't want to do this anymore. So whenever that happened, it was kind of like, okay, I can either move to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That was kind of the offer, was like, if I wanted to stay with the same company, I could move to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, or I could look for other opportunities within Charlotte. And so I took the latter, because I think that I also wanted to get into something a little bit different.
Yeah.
So I stayed in Charlotte, and now I work for a manufacturing company, a parent company, as a part of their engineering group. Their, I guess, corporate engineering group that goes out and is right now just trying to be an asset. So we help with capital projects. We help kind of trying to standardize things and create just kind of a uniform way of approaching problems and finding solutions with all the teams and pulling together all the best solutions that they have from all the other sites, right? Because like some sites do some things really well and some sites don't do things as well. So we're trying to kind of find, where sites have seen a lot of success and pulling it all into one. So
that's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool. So what advice do you have for other young people that are maybe transitioning into a new role like you've been doing recently?
I would say probably the biggest thing is that you want to set up some goals. I think is probably the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And typically something that's kind of discussed is like a 30, 60, 90-day goal. So you may hear that a lot whenever you're starting a new job, but you want to set up some work goals, like some work goals that you accomplish within the first month, within the first 2 months, and then within the first 3, but also some personal goals that you have for yourself, so that way you have something to look forward to outside of work and keep a good work-life balance.
Yeah. So I hear this acronym around goals a lot, and I'm cheating because I'm looking at your notes. So how do you set up your goals personally?
So I think something that you probably want to do whenever you kind of sit down is, like, it's never too early to start thinking of 5 to 10 years in the future. And so whenever you're doing that, you want to make sure that you're putting yourself on a path that you're going to be able to accomplish that goal within 5 to 10 years. And so a way, or something that has kind of been coined, is like a SMART goal. So it's something specific, something that's measurable, something that's achievable, relevant, and time bound. Right. So it's not just like, hey, I want to be CEO of the company one day, and it's like, okay, like, is that really? I mean, it's very specific. It is, but is it really like achievable to do within like your first? Like, you just started here. Do you really think that you're going to be able to run a multi-million or multi-billion-dollar company potentially? Is it
relevant? Is it relevant to your day to day?
Yeah.
Not really.
Right.
No.
No. And then is it time bound? It's like, what kind of time frame are you giving yourself, right? Because like that could take. I mean, it could be like impossible. Like, what if it's a family-owned business and there's no opportunity for you to get into kind of that position where you could potentially take over? So, like, you don't want to do stuff like that. You want to make sure that you're doing things that are going to be, you don't want to set yourself up for failure. That's what I'll say. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're 3 years into 3, actually going on 4 years into your career, and you talked a lot about career goals, and you mentioned earlier personal goals. What are some of the most important personal goals you think are for people that are starting their career for the first time? What are the things that they should be focusing on to take care of themselves on the other side that's not just their career?
I think the biggest one that people tend to like kind of overlook or not really think about is like financial, like set up some financial goals.
What do you mean? I'm an engineer. I make good money. I'm going to be making good money for the rest of my life. What do you mean finances?
Well, Well, some people they look at that, right? You know, they get a really good offer, and then it's like, oh my goodness, like I'm making more money than I've ever made in my entire life. Like I
Yeah.
can go out and buy whatever I want, and that is not the case. Like that is not the case at all, because you're going to put yourself in a situation where you're just going to be like just up to your eyeballs in debt, and like it creates a really stressful situation, right? And so like
Yeah.
if you want to have a successful career or successful like anything, you need to be able to feel comfortable and feel relaxed in like your home and with your personal life. And like a big one, like a big stressor in almost any environment is money. Like that is something that a lot of people care about and a lot of people struggle with. And so like you definitely want to make sure that you're setting up a good budget, that you're um, again, like kind of that 5, 10, 15 years in the future kind of thing. It's like, okay, well, where do I want to be? Right. So like maybe you graduated, you've got somebody that you've been dating or you've been seeing for a while, and like you want to, think about getting married. It's like you can't just like wedding rings aren't cheap, houses aren't cheap, weddings aren't cheap. So, like you have to set yourself up for success in that regard and really take care of that, or else it's gonna impact every aspect of your life, every single one.
Yeah, that's so true. I'm sorry I spent the entire time you were saying that trying to get a cough drop, but I'm
No, you're
concerned that I'm going to
fine.
be coughing this entire time.
No, you're okay.
But yeah, you're right. I think that your career success is definitely very tied to your personal life success. I mean, those are the two biggest
Yeah.
aspects of our life, right? So the things that you can do to create stability in one, I think it really helps you create the stability in the other. Because like as you're saying, like I mean, yeah, you can have a great for another example is you can have a great opportunity, but if you're not in a position financially to be able to make the leap, to make the jump, and go do the thing that's the best thing for your career, maybe it's you have to relocate and you have to just and you have to have a little you have a partner that's with you and you want to have the financial flexibility to be able to rotate to a new job and then have them figure out what kind of job they're going to get whenever you move that kind of stuff. I mean, if you're not financially stable, then you might miss out on opportunities because you're not maintaining that financial stability. um, and
Yeah.
then and then vice versa, no, as you can attest to, I mean, no job is permanent, right? So
Right. I mean, as much as they like to paint the idea that, like once you're in, you're there permanently and they'll take care of you forever. I mean, like stuff comes up, stuff happens that,
global
even with,
pandemics.
yeah. So like, stuff happens in our personal lives all the time. Like you were just telling me about, you had like an $1,800 car fix or whatever that came up, and like that happens to us on our personal lives. That definitely happens for big businesses. Sometimes they're facing bankruptcy. Sometimes a project kind of goes sideways and they end up in a spot where they have to cut overhead or they have to kind of reduce costs in whatever way that they can, or maybe they're just
Yeah.
struggling to get work at the time. And so like
Yeah.
that's, yeah. So like don't take that for granted.
Yeah. Thanks, Luke. And any other advice that you have before we go into the pod?
With goals, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I could talk about goals all day. To be honest with you,
From
but
your
I guess I
notes.
will. I'll give you two more personal goals, and then I think we should probably discuss some work goals. I think people want to see some tips and tricks for success in an engineering setting and in a professional format. So, two other personal goals that I think are really healthy and really important to have is focusing on your mental health and your physical health. I think that's something that you should definitely set up within the first 30, 60, and 90 days. And so, what does that look like? I mean, I know for me, for my personal health, right, I need to find a doctor. I need to find a dentist. If like if you have any sort of other thing that you need, maybe like a therapist or whatever,
Yeah.
something that's going to take care of you and take care of your mental health, so it's something that you don't have to be concerned about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then also maybe try and find something that's going to support your hobbies and get you outside and get you active or exercise or get you around people, other
Yeah.
like-minded people. That's going to be good for just having a good group of friends like outside of work that you can have.
Yeah. What's your hobby?
Mine,
Yeah.
so I what I do to keep kind of fit and kind of active is I go to the gym. a lot. I try and go, because I travel a lot more now. It gets kind of taxing and kind of hard to go every day. But I'm aim for 4 to 5 days a week, preferably 5.
Look at that.
I'm
Yeah.
not gonna. I'm
No.
I'm not gonna do that, Daniel. I'm not. You're gonna embarrass me, so I'm not gonna do that. But also, I'm trying to pick up some outdoor activities. So like
Yep.
snowboarding. I picked up snowboarding this year, which was very.
Is that a thing in the Carolinas?
They have some. They have some. It's not.
Okay,
big.
so you,
It's not.
okay, no. So your
it's not
hobby
big
is that you
out
you
west.
fly far away and you go snowboarding. That's your hobby.
No, they do have it in the Carolinas. They do. They
Okay.
have some. They have one that's about 2 hours from me here in Charlotte.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's definitely something that I could do as like a day trip. But like if you want some real snow and some real mountains, you're gonna have to go out west for all that. I mean, that's pretty much how it is with anything outdoors. Like if you want to find the best hiking trails, the best snowboarding, best surfing, best waves, whatever, like you're gonna have to go out west. Like the Rocky Mountains are just absolutely beautiful, and like it's hard to beat them in any regard.
So that's how you picked up this hobby? Is you just go to the Rocky Mountains like on the regular, or like?
No. I go here in the Carolinas. So maybe if I'm lucky, I'll get to go, out west, like once a year or maybe once every other year. But no, I go here in the Carolinas, and that's something that you can do with a group of friends, and it eats up a day. And if you have kind of like your own equipment, it's not super expensive to go. If you don't have your own equipment, then it can get somewhat pricey because you're probably looking about, I don't know, $300 to $400 per day because, like you got to buy your lift ticket, which is typically like here it's like $80. If you go out west, it's like $250. You have to rent a board, boots, helmet, like all that kind of stuff, and then of course you have to have like the clothes. So it can be kind of it can start out to be kind of expensive, but it's fun. I mean, it's a good way to spend a weekend or a Saturday, especially in the winter when there aren't a lot of other things like like you can't really do much like outdoor activities. You don't really want to do any outdoor activities, like just walking around the city. So yeah.
That's a cool hobby. That's much cooler than my hobby. I mean, then again, my hobby is expensive too. I mean, I'm not one to talk. Like, everybody that listens to this podcast knows that I'm an avid golfer. So that, I know. I'm Maddie and I are gonna go
getting into it. I keep trying to look at getting into it, man, and it's just like I don't want to buy clubs, and I don't want to look like I'm gonna look like a fool on any sort of. Anytime you put something like that in my hand and I have to hit some sort of tiny, it's just gonna not work. I'm gonna look terrible. So I don't know. I probably will at some point. I think it's like for all the young people, all the young engineers that are getting out there, you should pick up golf. It is
or any hobby, but golf.
Yeah, but you should. Well, yeah, you should definitely have some personal hobbies that you enjoy. But golfing is like that is one of the most common ways that business trips or any sort of corporate kind of function.
At least in our industry,
something to do with business. Yeah. No, that's across every industry. Like people golf. That's what they do. Especially like your higher ups. They want to go sit on a nice golf course and go hit a bunch of that's what they do. So pick it up. Just so you're at least like good enough to not look like an idiot out there.
Yeah. Pick it up so you're good enough to not look like an idiot, and that you know enough to not be disrespectful while you're out there. Just enough to just enough to know what you're doing. That's a good point.
Right.
Yeah. All right. I've thoroughly distracted you, Luke. What were we talking about?
You're good. I think we have one other goal. So we talked about, of course, like the financial goals that you need to do for your personal goals. So financial goals. So set up a budget. If you don't know how to do that, or like what good tactics are for understanding your finances, I would definitely recommend Dave Ramsey's book. I don't remember what it's called. What's it called? Do you know what it's called, Daniel? The extreme money makeover or something.
Extreme money makeover. That If you're coming from a position where you have no idea what to do,
100%.
That's a good place to start. Yeah.
Definitely a good place to start. It's a foolproof method on how to live a life where you're going to get to the end of it and you're going to have some money left over and you're going to be able to enjoy it. Now that's not for everybody. Like some people are, intelligent enough to kind of like work other ways and work other avenues and do other things. But that's a good place to start. So build some financial goals. Talk about some things that you want to buy, want to get, and like build a good budget. Take care of your personal health. And then I think I had one more. No, maybe that was it.
I think it was hobbies. The hobby one was like tied into the other one.
Yeah. So find some personal hobbies, and then also do some things for your personal health. Make sure that you take care of your personal health. And for all the men out there, if you're working in a professional setting, find a barber. You got to.
Are you saying something?
No. You look good, Daniel. No, you look great. But Daniel's going to have to find one. He's going to have to find one now that he's moved to New Orleans. Because if he goes like 2 months without a haircut, now he'll get away with it because he's on site. But if he goes 2 months without a haircut, it would be hard for him to walk around a corporate office setting looking very, very shaggy.
No, you're right. No, there's a barber shop that's like a 3-minute walk from where we just moved to, but it's one of those bougie ones where you need an appointment. So one of my friends was in town this past weekend, and he was like, "Yeah, I walked in there asking for if they had walk-ins, and they were like, we don't do walk-ins here." So I don't know if that is gonna be the place that I go to. I'm more like a $30 for a beer and a haircut kind of guy. So we'll see. You're right. I'm gonna have to find one. So wish me luck.
To find one. I will say though, like I don't. A lot of places I feel like I've gone to, they don't really do the walk-ins anymore, especially not since COVID. So like before COVID, I think it was more prevalent, right? So like you didn't mind if there were a bunch of people kind of waiting, and it's like, hey, if I finish this one somewhat soon, like you just hop in and we'll work you in. But now with COVID, I think everybody's, especially if you have to sanitize, and like you have to do there's a lot more that goes into a haircut than previous. So I think a lot of places now you have to get an appointment.
Okay. I will relent to that. Set up the appointment. Yeah, okay, fine. All right, so you hinted at some professional goals.
Yeah. And this is where you can also chime in. But I think we can discuss some good 30-day goals. So I think like anytime that you start a new position, I think there are just some pretty good staple things that you should do every new job that you start. And I think, and you could probably attest to this, Daniel, but I think the first big one is you should probably find a mentor.
Yep.
And that should be something that you're getting done, potentially like week 1 or week 2, but definitely within the first 30 days. Find somebody that you can lean on pretty heavily to kind of like walk you through. And this will help you with any sort of thing that you have that's company related, right? Like it could be, hey, like I don't know how to do this expense report.
Exactly.
Or, a travel thing. Like you have somebody to go to, and it's not like the other guy that got hired the same day you did, right?
Yeah. Like no, exactly. Yeah. It's so important, and it doesn't have to be your. I'd say that obviously you have that built-in mentorship you get with your manager, but I think it is really important to have somebody else because. Right. Say, for example, the first time you need to negotiate a raise, that negotiation is going to be with your manager. So you're going to need somebody else that's maybe a lead or somebody else that's been through it before, or somebody that maybe you even get lucky enough to get plugged in with somebody that's in a leadership role in the company that's beyond the scope of your manager. But some kind of, it's really important to have somebody that's other than just your manager that you can kind of lean on for those kind of things, because there will be instances. Yeah, but it's a great point, Luke.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like that you bring up, of course, it is pretty easy to kind of rely on your manager and your boss, right? Because they're probably overseeing a lot of your work, and they're very, very, especially if you're right out of college, they're going to be very, very hands-on for the first year. They're going to be very, very involved in what you're doing, how you're doing your projects, how you're doing whatever you're doing. And eventually it'll kind of wean off. But as you get kind of into more, as you're there for longer, there's an expectation that you're going to be able to handle certain responsibilities, and that you're going to be able to do a lot of things on your own. And sometimes like you're going to have to sit in front of that man and be like, hey, or sit in front of that person and say, hey, I want a 10 to 15% raise. Like I think, hey, I've gotten an offer from somewhere else, right? So like say you're making 75 here, and it's like, hey, I got an offer somewhere else, and they want to pay me 90, right? And like that's significant enough that you would have to have some really good benefits or some really good reasons to keep you grounded at your current
Yeah.
place to
Yeah.
pass up an extra 15K a year. And whenever you do that, like, you can't go to your boss and that's been your mentor for 2 years or 3 years and say, hey, I had this offer, like, what do you know about this company? What do you know about this position? What's the expectations here? Like, what would you do if you were in my shoes? Because then, what he's going to think, what he's thinking is, great, now I have to, like, potentially find somebody to replace you if you leave. And
Yeah.
I don't want to pay you more, right? Because, like, if I pay you more, then, like, it's going to cut into the company's profits, and that's going to
Yeah.
not look great. And
Yeah.
so it's kind of like you're gonna be in situations where they may not be acting in the best interest of themselves, and you want to make sure that you have somebody that's going to look at the best interest of you and
Yeah.
your growth and your potential.
Yeah, and it's not to say that there aren't outliers to that, right? But
Yeah.
it's good to just put yourself in a position where you're not having to rely on the outlier. That's a big deal.
Right.
All right, what's another big
Yeah,
goal?
absolutely. Another big goal, within like the 60, I think within the 30 days, I think you should also have like a lot of your clerical stuff done. All right. So, like, get your 401k set up, get your medical insurance, get all that stuff set up,
Yeah.
get your email signature set up, get everything done. I think a good thing within the first 30 days is try and go around and meet people, set up times to have discussion. This one could kind of bleed into like the 60 days, but, meet people and meet everybody. Like, I'm talking, because there's going to be a good chance, especially if it's a small office, that you're going to interact with everybody, So, like, more than just like your other engineering team, more than your engineering lead, more than your manager, like, go and talk to the secretary, because, like, the secretary may be the person that you have to go to if you have to, like, send stuff to a vendor or you have to send stuff to a contractor or something. Like, that may be the person that also handles, like, your document control, and you want to have
Yeah.
a good relationship with them. So meet other people in your office for sure.
Yep.
Um, and I think within the first 90 days, something that you probably want to have is, like, you'll be pretty settled in by that point. I think you probably want to have that conversation with your boss and say, hey, especially if you're right out of school, it's like, hey, like, what are some expectations that you have for me for the next year? Like,
exactly.
This is where I want to go. This is where I want to be. When can I get involved? Like, what sort of projects do you have lined up for me for the next year? And, like, you want to have that conversation so that way you're in a state where you're in control of your career, as opposed to just kind of being like, of course you want to be accessible and you want to be reliable and you want to be somebody that they can depend on.
Yeah.
But you want to be in control of your career as much as possible. And so, like, if you just leave it up to them and it's just like, well, I don't have anything to do and he hasn't given me anything, so, like, I guess I'm just not going to do anything. It's like, no, I need to be in control of this. Maybe, like, I want to get involved. Say you're a mechanical engineer by nature, but you understand that electrical and instrumentation play such a big role that you need to get some exposure, right? So it's like, hey, like, there's an opportunity that, we're going out to meet with a vendor and they're going to show us some of our instruments and some of the stuff. So, like, can I tag along? Is that okay? Can I do that? So, like, have those conversations so that way you're in control and you can get some, you can kind of carve out the career that you want as opposed to whatever career they tell you to have.
Yeah. That makes sense. And I think you hit on something really good earlier is, having that conversation about not only what projects that you're going to be working on, but also what success in that role looks like for a year.
Yeah.
And these are, again, if you're working for a company that is an established company that has plans and procedures in place to deal with these kind of things, then, like, theoretically, this stuff should already be happening. But if it's not happening, you need to be driving it to happen. And you need to be asking your managers, at what point in time do you think that I would be spun up to fully doing this role autonomously? What timeline do you think that is? So that way you can come back and say, well, I hit that or I beat that. And then you say, okay, well, what does it look like for me? What does it look like for me 6 months from now or a year from now? If you can't get, the granularity of when I'm spun up, but, what does it look like? What does somebody usually look like 6 months into this role? And then the other one that I would really hit on, and this is like very early on, and this will also help you set expectations for promotions and salary increases, but you should have already gotten an idea whenever you came into the job when merit increases are and that kind of stuff. And you should probably have already gotten a good idea of when promotions are. But this is another time where you can reemphasize that. So, hey, if I'm a level 1, what does it look like for me to be a level 2? and what timeline is that
absolutely.
usually achieved on, and how can I document my progress from level 1 to level 2 so that way I can get to level 2. And doing that will put you in a position where you're taking control of your career, not only from a physical day to day, but also a long term progression thing, and driving that. I mean, because yes, there are outliers, but for the most part, you are the person that is responsible for your career progression in many ways, and you have obviously companies will support that and companies will invest in you, but you in the end, it is your personal accountability. You drive the bus, so you just have to hop on the bus and drive the thing. So doing that early on, so that way you're not 6 months in a toiling situation, not knowing what's going to happen next in your job, it's just super important. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is something that everybody should have a conversation with their boss about. Is what, like, what do I need to master to move on to the next step, right? Because you definitely don't want to be in that situation where you're like 2 to 3 years in and you're like, hey, like everybody else around me that came in about the same time or 6 months ahead of me or 6 months after me, like they're starting to move into other positions and they're starting to get promotions and pay increases and all that kind of stuff. It's like, I haven't gotten that yet. Like, why not? And it's like, well, like you can't do this, So like I had that conversation whenever I was a PE, it's like, hey, what does it take for me to step into like either a senior PE role or like a PM, like an assistant project manager or a project manager? Yeah. It's like, well, you need to be able to handle a contract. You need to be able to do, communicate with your subs. You need to be able to do this. And so like if I had never had that conversation and it was just always so focused on being a really good PE, I would have never said at any point been like, hey, I want to be a PM. So like, can you help me kind of navigate how to handle a contract? What does it look like to write a contract? Like, what does it look like to do that? Because like, if you don't ask, they're not going to just automatically assume like, oh, this would be a good learning lesson for you, or this would be a good time to get you included. Because they're not, like, a lot of times they're just focused on getting the job done and making the company money. So you have to really, drive the bus, like you're saying, and say, hey, if I want to be a PM, or if I want to be, a lead engineer, or if I want to be like whatever, like what skills do I need to master? What do I need to show you or exemplify in order for me to step into that next role? Because like if you don't ask, they probably won't tell you. And if you never know, you're just taking a shot in the dark at what you need to know. It's like, well, I'm a pro at AutoCAD. Like, why can't I be a lead engineer? It's like, well, you have to be able to get a city permit, right? Like you've got to be able to get a permit in order to install like some sort of drainage system or whatever. Like you've got to have like that sort of understanding. And it's like, well, I've never done that before. And it's like, we know that's why you're not the lead engineer. That's not why you're
exactly
the guy. So definitely have those conversations, because like you don't know what all the job entails unless you ask.
Yeah. Sweet. Well, man, I think we've hit the nail on the head on this one. What do you think?
I think so too. Hopefully other people will find it useful.
Yeah, I would listen to this and I would say I got something out of it. So I definitely have. So it's a good reminder, that's for sure. And I hope that somebody at least got to take one thing out of that. What I'd like to do is I'd like to kick us into a quick little break, and then we'll come back with LinkedIn Lunatics, our favorite recurring segment. All right, so let's kick to ad break, which is basically you and me pausing our talking for a few seconds, and then we'll get right back to it. All right, we are back with LinkedIn Lunatics. Unless Luke wants to take a break. Do you want to take an actual break? All right.
No, I'm good.
Let's keep going. All right, so LinkedIn Lunatics. LinkedIn Lunatics is my favorite segment of the podcast. It is just wonderful. And in LinkedIn Lunatics, we go through some posts on LinkedIn's of some people that, okay, maybe it's a little bit of a stretch for me to call them a lunatic. Maybe that's not nice. But I've just found the subreddit called our LinkedIn Lunatics, and I'm just sharing it for you lovely people. So what we're going to do...
Daniel, you found some very interesting LinkedIn Lunatics. Like, I will say, I watch it like every morning. I try and look for your videos. I'm like, there's no way that's real. That's got to be made up. So you've done a good job of finding it. I will say that.
Thank you. All right. So what we're going to do is we are going to go into LinkedIn Lunatics, and we are going to go read a couple of interesting posts from some lovely, lovely people on LinkedIn. So, let me see. Oh my goodness. You know what happened? I saved all these posts, right? And then I didn't copy the correct link. So, give me a second. Oh no. This is crazy. 1 second. So, I'm going to share it this way. And we're going to go this way, and we're going to just try our best. So let's see if this comes across. Okay. So, this one says, I am convinced that posting and engaging with people on LinkedIn every day for 90 minutes is the best habit you can possibly develop. So this is not just a great habit. This is the best habit you can possibly develop. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the most lunatic and 0 not being a lunatic, Luke, what do you give this post?
I think it depends on the role. I think, honestly, I would give it like an 8. Right?
Yeah.
Like if you're cutting out 90 minutes of your day is like a long time. You know, especially considering, you know, like you've got 8 hours in a day. That's like, I'm not going to do that quick math in my head and embarrass myself.
Yeah.
But 90 minutes out of 8 hours in a typical workday, that's over, you know, like 20% ish, somewhere in there of your day just spent connecting with people on LinkedIn, that there's a good chance that they're not even using it for that resource. It's like,
yeah,
who are you connecting with for 90 minutes every day? Like,
yeah, so
who you need to talk to?
I'll give this guy a benefit of the doubt. His role is director of strategic partnerships. So maybe he's like a sales guy. So I think for him, personally, maybe him actually going out and doing cold calls and engaging with people on LinkedIn for 90 minutes is like vital to his job. So I'm going to give him that benefit. But as a universal habit, I agree with you. I think it's insane. I don't have 90 minutes in the day to donate to LinkedIn.
The only time I think that it would be applicable is if you're in some sort of like strategic partnership, like it says he is, right? So like if you work with sponsorships for some sort of athletic club, if you're a recruiter, or if you do something like some sort of sales, some sort of engineering sales, like yeah, maybe. But even then, I feel like there are other avenues that you can use outside of LinkedIn, right? Like I think that you probably need to be like either cold calling or going to the actual location of, like, if you're trying to get in touch with a certain vendor, like don't reach out to him on LinkedIn, like send him an email or go to his office and be like, hey, we want to work with you. We want you to be our primary supplier for electrical wire. Like, you know, don't go through LinkedIn. Most people don't even check that stuff anyway. So like it's potentially a waste of time.
Yeah. I mean, I if somebody sends me has InMail, like the premium LinkedIn, and sends me a message on LinkedIn, I'm significantly less likely to respond to their message. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And if you don't, if I don't know you, and we don't have like a bunch of mutual connections, I'm not going to accept a connection request, because like I personally view like my LinkedIn connections as a reflection of me and the people that I've assembled in my life, and I'm not going to connect to you if I don't know you. Sorry. Like if I haven't worked with you in some capacity, then I'm not going to do it. So, okay, you got 8 out of 10. I'll say 3 out of 10 in context, but 10 out of 10 out of context is what I'm going to give him.
Yeah.
All right.
I just inefficient use of time. And as engineers, we hate inefficiency.
Yeah, exactly. And 90 minutes a day. I don't have that many minutes in the day, and unless I'm doing it while I'm working out and cooking dinner and eating dinner. And at that point, then there's just no break. There's no rest. There's nothing. It's just All right. That's insane. All right. Glad we agree there. Here's the next one. All right. So this one is titled, "I'm elated to announce the announcement of my elation." And the post is LMAO. Look at that LinkedIn bio. And his bio says Forbes 30 under 30 reader, TED Talks viewer, LinkedIn top voice muter. So it seems that this man has decided to kind of meme the LinkedIn influencers with his post. And I commiserate with him, and I understand why he's doing it. But at the same time, I don't know about you, man, but this is just another example about how LinkedIn has turned into every other social media site. I mean, there's just memers, and trolls, and parody and fun accounts. I mean, like, it's just not what LinkedIn is meant to be.
No, absolutely not. And also, I mean, it's a little bit discouraging, right? So, because, I mean, you kind of look at this and like something that I hear about all these social media platforms is like, I need to get off of it, right? Like, I need to stay off of Instagram, or I need to stay off of whatever, because like anytime that I'm on there, I just get angry or depressed or whatever, and I see all the great highlights of everybody's life. And you would hope that with LinkedIn, it being more of a professional
Yeah.
source, right? And that's not something that you should try and like cut off, because like you need those professional connections and you need that network.
Yeah.
For you to get kind of like that same feeling from a professional environment of like,
Yeah.
hey, you know, this is how great my life is going. It's like, that's not, I don't want to see that. Like, I want to congratulate somebody for starting a new position. I want to hear about this, you know, like the study that they did on how to be productive working from home, or like how to, you know, have that conversation with my boss about a pay raise or something. Like, that's the stuff that I want to see. I don't want to see you in a boat with this great view behind you, you know, that you're like, whatever. I know he's doing it satirically, but I know that some people do that. They just like want to parade the best avenues of their life, and it's like, don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah, well,
Not you.
it reminds me of like the guys that are like on YouTube trying to sell their courses, right? Where they post a
Yeah.
picture of them in front of a Lambo, and they're like, "This is why you should listen to me," and all that kind. It's just, again, it's like the same crap
Yeah.
that we're seeing on all the other social media websites, and it's like LinkedIn is like literally a professional networking site, and
So I'll give you a little bit of, I mean, like, maybe I'm just playing devil's advocate here, but if there's in the event someone is trying to sell you on something because they pose in front of a Lambo saying how much that they have,
yeah,
or so that way you can be like me, there's a good chance that you are funding their life by buying that course that is absolutely useless. Because like if they had it, like if they could actually do it, they wouldn't need to sell a course for it, right? And like there's a good chance that they bought that land in order to try and sell you what they're trying to sell. All marketing scheme. So don't do it. Don't buy them. They're useless.
yeah, and also like it's leased. It's leased. Like
Yeah.
they didn't buy
or
it.
rented
Yeah.
for a day. Like they're
Yeah.
just like, hey, I want a yellow Lambo. It's like, you know, that's going to be like $1,800 to rent for the week or whatever. They're like, it's fine because it'll pay off in like 6 or 7 months whenever I sell however many of these courses that I sell.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, okay. So don't do that. Don't fall for that.
Amen. All right, next one. So what was your LinkedIn Lunatics score for him? I'm gonna add a button. I'm gonna add a button that like pulls up a number whenever I press the button. It's gonna be great.
So I hope that his is satirical. So if his is satirical, I would give him like a 2, maybe.
Okay.
Right? 'Cause like I think it's very obvious that he's doing it, you know, like ironically.
Yeah.
But if this is like a legitimate post, like if somebody posts something like this where it's like this really long paragraph of how like they feel so accomplished in life and they've done all this kind of crazy stuff, like that kind of stuff, it's like a 6 or a 7. It's like mild annoyance and frustration that I have to scroll past it, and I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'll give him a 5 because he floats the border of being a lunatic, but also he's not a lunatic, but he's still annoying. So that's what
Right.
I'll give him. All right. Yeah. Next one. Next one is titled "Gotta Reach That Quota." So this person said, "I felt disappointed in myself last week for not posting the recommended 3 to 5 times on LinkedIn. I was scared I would down emoji, lose connections, sleeping emoji, lose my motivation to get back into posting, question thinking emoji, forget what I want to post about. But in reality, I'm so proud of the week I've had. I signed the contract for my post-grad job. I met my new bosses in person for the first time. And bonus, I got to spend my birthday in Spain with my best friend. What have you done this week that you're proud of? Hashtag motivation, hashtag LinkedIn, hashtag connections, hashtag time off, and then top it up with a lovely little picture enjoying what looks like an alcoholic beverage in Spain. Which,
Yeah.
first of all, no problem with the alcoholic beverage. Most adults do drink alcohol. However, I do have some opinions about this one. But I'm gonna kick it over to you first, Luke. What do you think? I mean, let me put it back up there so that way you can see it because there's a lot there.
Yeah, no, I see it. I have it pulled up right here. I think the priorities are all out of whack, man. Like I'll be real honest with you. Like in the and that's the thing that maybe I'm missing or I'm not understanding about a lot of these posts is that, you know, like in at least in my world, like my priorities is like job is like right up there number one, right? Like that should come first. Like I would never have sacrificed signing a contract for a post grad job over posting to LinkedIn. Like that's definitely not. Meeting my bosses right there at, you know, like we already talked about that earlier, you know, with like the goals thing. It's like you want to network and connect. And I guarantee you that connecting in person, in real life, is way more important than trying to connect to somebody digitally through a professional social media platform. And then also, like, same thing, you know, work-life balance. Like, I mean, kudos to her for being able to enjoy Spain with her best friend. But that's definitely something that you should take the time to enjoy. But if you're sacrificing any of those things to post to LinkedIn 3 to 5 times, I mean, unless you're like unless it's like kind of the same thing, like you're marketing which it looks like that's what she is, unless you're marketing or sales or something like that, where there's a significant correlation between the amount of posts that you make or the amount of like whatever effort that you're on some sort of digital platform and like your sales and your performance. That's just like, there's no need for that. Like that's, you know, like that's not something that you should post there. And also doing this, I don't know if it's having the positive encouragement that people are thinking, right? They're seeing that and they're going, well, like, is that a possibility for me to lose all those things if I'm not posting 3 to 5 times a week? Should I be posting 3 to 5 times a week?
Yeah.
You know? Like
Also,
yeah.
Where's the recommendation that you post 3 to 5 times a week on LinkedIn? Is that the recommendation that like you need to do that in order to become like an influencer? Like I don't.
Yeah. Like I don't know, you know, like that's just like seeing this is so like odd, I guess, like trying to understand what she's getting at there, you know, and then like people will pull bad connections with a lot of things, right? And it's like, oh well, she's been posting 3 to 5 times a week on her LinkedIn. And look what she did, right? Like she just signed a post grad job. You know, like maybe that's the secret. She got to meet her bosses, and on top of that, like she went to Spain for her birthday, and she doesn't look very old. And so for her to, you know, been able to travel internationally and bring her best friend with her and have just graduated her post grad, like she must be doing something right and something successful. And so it's just creating a very like convoluted image of how you can accomplish the things that you want in your life. And it's like, don't do that. Don't mislead people. Like, don't do that. Well, that's not okay.
Yeah, I honestly, like, again, I'm gonna focus in on the 3 to 5 times a week because what is there that you can like? What possible what are you doing?
Yeah,
3 to 5 times. Like, what are you posting?
I want to see them.
I'm afraid to do that because I don't want to go that far into it. But like, I mean, I would if somebody in my LinkedIn network was posting 3 to 5 times a week, I would mute them.
Yep.
Again, but then I don't personally scroll through LinkedIn like it's Facebook. I mean, the only time I'm on LinkedIn is to congratulate somebody for a new job. Or getting recognized for some kind of award related to their career that was, you know, posted to them by their maybe this organization that recognizes them, or
to make a connection with somebody that you know, right?
Yeah, that's literally it. That's it. Or maybe I'll go on there every once in a while to message somebody that I'm already connected with to say, hey, I'm going to be in town. I don't have your phone number. What's up? Or, hey, just wanted to let you know what I'm up to. What are you up to with your career? That's basically it. Maybe we're using LinkedIn wrong. Maybe I need to stop this segment.
Yeah. Maybe we're doing it wrong. I don't know. Yeah. But I mean, like, I don't know what you I feel like we're doing things right, right? Like I feel like we've accomplished some things and we're pretty successful. So like maybe we
Yeah.
are, maybe we aren't. I don't know.
They're gonna find us. They're gonna find us, and then they're gonna call us out for being a couple bros with a microphone with no
Yeah,
knowledge.
yeah, 100%. I mean, that is also like I didn't just spend my birthday in Spain, so like
Yeah,
maybe I am
yeah.
doing something wrong. You know what I mean?
I mean, I
So
think
yeah, I
that
don't know.
she goes to school. I think Hull is like up in somewhere in Europe, so it's pretty interconnected. So it's not anything too
Okay,
crazy.
okay,
But yeah, it's not like she's going from the U.S. But yeah,
okay.
that's it's just yeah. I'd give her a 7 out of 10 for the just on the 3 to 5 times a week alone.
Yeah,
That's just
I think
a
that's
lot.
yeah. I would agree with you. I would maybe bump it up, but I think seven's a pretty good number. And I mean, I think like from what it looks like, she's doing it somewhat innocently. Like she's probably trying to post on there to be somewhat motivational, but it's not the place to do it. So if
Yeah,
she wants somebody just to pat you on the back, go somewhere else.
yeah. All right, last one. This one's a good one, buddy.
Yeah,
You're
I'm gonna
gonna,
have a lot of opinions. I'm
yeah,
gonna have a lot of opinions.
you're gonna love this one. All right. So I'm not gonna read some of the words that this woman says here, but I'm going to show them on my screen, and then we will talk about them. All right. So post is awful response by Femispace, and this lovely lady posted, "Pardon my language, but are you kidding me?" And the job posting says, and by the way, this woman who posted this, not a lunatic. Gonna establish that from the very beginning. Not a
Yeah.
lunatic. She is not a lunatic. Kayla, you are a hero. Now, to be fair, would I personally use that language on LinkedIn? No. But you're a hero. You're a hero. You're a hero. All right. Post says, UX UI designer internship unpaid internship, 11 to 50 employees, easy apply through LinkedIn. Qualifications: 2+ years of experience as a product designer, preferably in a consumer facing business to customer environment, solid foundation in the fundamentals of design and a keen eye for pixel perfect details, experience with complex data-driven visualizations, dashboards, and user interactions. Working God, sorry. I'm so angry I'm coughing. Working knowledge of the following technologies and software: Figma, InVision, Adobe XD, Adobe Creative Suite, HTML, CSS, SCHS, iOS, Android, and design systems. Knowledge of front-end development technologies, a plus. Okay, so the other ones are required. These ones are a plus: HTML, Angular, React, etc. Knowledge of responsive design and mobile UI, multitasking and time management skills with the ability to prioritize tasks, and a bachelor's degree. So for this unpaid internship, 2 years of experience, working knowledge, and a bachelor's degree. Unpaid internship. All right. So she posts this, and then the company responds.
Oh, did they? I didn't see that.
They
part.
responded. All right. So,
Oh,
Luke,
yeah.
I'm going to give
I
you the
see.
opportunity to read this, unless reading is too hard for you, but I need to cough.
I am from Louisiana, so don't put it past me.
No, I
I
didn't
can-
say
I
that.
It was implied. It's all right. I picked up on it, Daniel.
All right.
But all right. I can go ahead and read
Read
that
this
for
one
you.
for
So,
us.
Stimaspace says, "Hi all. I'm so glad that you all that all of you have high pay, tons of experience, and a lot of free time to disperse negative energy on the internet, trying to discourage innovative startups from bringing life-saving solutions to the masses. I agree that unpaid internship is controversial, and yes, it is 100% legal in the USA. As a pre-revenue startup, I feel no guilt about using this option on the market the same way the most lucrative Fortune 100 companies do, and even Congress. In the U.S. Senate, only 51% of interns are paid by Republicans, and as low as 31% by Democrats. You can read the report, blah, 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 here." And they included a link. It says you're missing quite a few points. The job market in general, job descriptions are up to 20% wishful thinking. Demand for an internship is much higher than supply. Even unpaid students need experience not only to graduate, but also to find the next paid job, if you want to help unpaid interns to get a salary, maybe you can offer them a job. I can send quite a few of them to you.
Okay, so they not only they have one, they have multiple of these. They already have some.
Yeah.
All right. So, let me go first. Screw
Go for it.
FemaSpace. Unpaid internships are like evil. Evil, 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 evil. If you're relying on interns to deliver a product so much that you're relying on them so hard and you can't even pay them, but you need them, then
Yeah.
your business model sucks. Like,
Yeah.
your business model sucks. Like, you're moving too fast or whatever. But I mean, if you're gonna rely on some interns to deliver, I mean, yeah, and just pointing at other unpaid internships doesn't make your crappy unpaid internship okay. Like, just because other places are bad does not mean that you're good. Like, and this is just sad. Like, it just makes me mad, man. It makes me mad. I don't have. I've ranted so many times about unpaid internships, but like, it just, if you already don't value my work product enough to pay me at all, not even minimum working wage, then why would you value me enough for me to want to work for you long term? Like, you're just sending the signal that you're a terrible employer. You know, like, I don't know. What are your takes?
So I think this one's a little tricky. So I agree in the setting that if you are at a professional company that is profitable, right, and like you're taking the opportunity to take on interns because maybe that you see a demand in the future for for us, like an engineering position.
Yeah.
If you want to grow your company and you want to, get in some bright young minds that you can really, introduce into the company, into the culture, and how you do things and how you want the company to continue to grow, yeah, I think you're going to have to pay them, right? Because, like, you have to also consider what kind of interns you're going to get if you don't pay them.
Yeah.
Like, if you're really, because, like, I know people, and I mean, I'm sure you know this too, but, like, if you want to, like, the best of the best, like, they're getting internships that are paying them $40+ an hour, right? Like, they're making, like, if you were to, spread that across the entirety of a year, like, they're making an $80K salary over the course of the summer. It's like, do you really want to convince, like, that caliber of student to come and work for you unpaid? Like, you're not going to. Like, you're going to get the kids that, like, didn't get a response from anybody else, and they're hoping that they can get this foot in the door so that way the next time they go and apply somewhere, they can say, well, I have this experience, because that's a big thing that a lot of people want. Now, as far as this one goes, I think this is a little bit misleading. I don't think they should have put internship in here. I think they should have said what it was, and what it looks like is
a job, an entry-level job. They need an entry-level job.
No, what they need is, like, they need like more like a business partner that's going to help them with their startup. That's what they need. Like, they need somebody that's willing to completely invest in whatever product or whatever they're producing with the potential for there to be part ownership. So, like, if you're getting an intern that's coming in that's only going to be there for a summer, also, like, if you can do all of those things, and if you have 2+ years of experience as a product designer, if you have working knowledge of all these technologies and softwares, if you have a bachelor's degree, which if you have a bachelor's degree and can do all those things, you probably are some sort of electrical engineer or cyber engineer or, like computer, what is it? I can't remember. What's the computer one? Computer technology? No, it's not that.
They need.
But anyway, like, you probably have some really sophisticated degree that is, centered around coding, centered around, like, a lot of tech.
Or just experience, yeah.
Yeah, and so, like, you're not going, like, again, it's kind of like the same thing of, like, what kind of caliber of employee are you going to get, right? So, like, if you want somebody with 2 years of experience and a bachelor's degree, and it's just going to be an internship over a period of time, and there's no potential for any sort of benefit, it's like, why am I doing this? Like, the only reason I would be doing this is if I graduated with a 1.8 GPA and I can't get anything and nobody wants to hire me. So what do? I go to this unpaid internship because it's the only thing available in my city, and it's the only way that I can get my foot in the door somewhere. So that way the next place I go, I can say, hey, this is all the stuff that I did, right? But even then, it's like, are you really going to have the 2+ years of experience? Like, unless you're just a terrible employee and you have a terrible GPA, like, I just, so like,
I kind of want to apply.
You should. Let me know how that goes. Let me know what they say. But again, so like, if this is something that I think it could be, or what they probably need to be looking for, is more of like a partner. Like, they need to be looking for somebody with a lot of experience with startups that can go through and create the product that they want, and then they would be a partner in it. So like, they would be probably some sort of owner or part owner of it. Like, they own 5 or 10% of the company. They don't need a college intern with 2 years of experience and a bachelor's degree. Like, no, you need somebody that's going to get your product off the ground, that the 11 to 50 employees that are depending on you getting this product off the ground, because I'm sure they're not getting paid a lot, that are depending on you getting this product off the ground, can actually, like, find a reason to keep coming into work and not just abandon ship as soon as things start to turn south. They have some faith in what they're doing. So, no, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, and just for the benefit, I know. Can you see my screen?
No.
So you can't see what I've been sharing this entire time. Oh, sorry. I didn't realize that you couldn't even see that. So, if you go to their website, it reeks of Herbal Essence or Herbal Life or whatever that the one that the MLM company that sells like juices and stuff. It's just like a juice company, and their website could definitely use some work, because at the top of the website it says like flurper. Like, there's definitely some issues with their website, but it sounds like they just need to pay like a subcontractor or a contractor to just develop their website, and they just want to have a website made for free, and that's just not how it works, like, it costs money to have a website, and if you didn't calculate that into your pro forma for running your company, then it sounds like you screwed up, like, well, you basically want somebody to build and maintain your website for you for free, and that's just
well, I mean, like, there's a reason that like a lot of businesses fail, and it's because they try and cut corners and make shortcomings, and like, this is not, absolutely not. So we'll see if they hang around and they stay there. Maybe in a year, 5 years or something, we'll see how how well they do. But I can't see it being a very successful.
Yeah, me too, man. So best of luck to them. So
wish them the best of luck.
Yeah, exactly. So that was LinkedIn Lunatics. I'm going to give Femispace a 13 out of 10, and our girlfriend Kayla a 0 out of 10. Luke, what we've done is we've hit an hour. So I know that we had some other questions lined up, but honestly, I'm pretty satisfied with our hour. So, we did a little intro, we did a little bit about you, got some general advice on career progression, and then we finished off with some LinkedIn Lunatics. So I call this a successful first episode with you, Luke. What do you think?
I think so. I mean, unless you want to do anything else, I don't mind. We can make this one a little long. It's up to you. Your podcast. You just let me know. I got some time.
Why don't we go ahead and call it for this episode and end here.
Perfect.
This has been episode 25 of the Engineering Success Podcast with guest host Luke Callahan. Potential future recurring guest host. We'll see.
But we'll see how much I have to travel.
Yeah, exactly. But we're always a great treat to have you on, Luke. Thank you so much for joining, and This has been the Engineering Success Podcast.
I just made a pilot, then they threw me on the stations. Now I'm not complaining. My thoughts get complicated, I cannot explain in lameness. Never losing focus because I ain't chasing payments. Still playing in the basement while I'm working on arrangements. They heard the kid in 50 countries, thank God that's amazing. But I'd rather thank Spotify, they put me on the station.
Hey guys, I want to tell you about a new podcast called Tequila Time. The Tequila Time podcast is a weekly podcast, a fusion of tech, entertainment, business, travel, and more. And of tequila, of course. Dive right in as your hosts, Callahan and Marius, explore relevant topics to the business world and beyond. Join them in their travels around the world and learn about how new technology and the newest Silicon Valley trends. Hear their interviews with special guests possessing unparalleled knowledge within their disciplines. You can find them on anchor.fm/tequila time and on Instagram as the Tequila Time Podcast.